trending this way for some time as far as the quarterback, how important the position is, the value of the position. When I was growing up, it was running back, tailback. We know that because 2.5 hours down the road, the New Orleans Saints have become what? A winning franchise, a relevant team and brand in the NFL in the last 13 years because of a combination of Sean Payton and Drew Brees. Sean's ability, he may be the best in the game. I lean that way. I know Andy Reid's the hot guy right now. This is all going to lead into our next guest and the $500 million man of Mahomes. But Sean is so talented, off the charts good at running an offense, developing players, finding where he can drop them and they can maximize their talent, right? Guys like Marquise Colston could have gone to another team. I mean, I think he was an undrafted free agent, right? But he could have gone to another team, never even taken a snap in the NFL just because that offensive staff wasn't capable of finding a way for him. You know, under Sean Payton, he has a remarkable career. A guy with a ton of talent, Michael Thomas, Sean can take and make him even better, and he's going to make him a Hall of Famer. Same with Drew. Would Drew have been good somewhere else? Yes. As good? No. Kamara. The list goes on and on of how special Sean is, but this quarterback position thing, we have now set the market, and I don't think we're going backwards because there's just more and more talent coming that is kind of Mahomes-like, Watson-like, Russell-like. We want to welcome in Mike Detillier, NFL insider, WWL Radio TV New Orleans. Mike joins us on the Miller Lite guest line. You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Mike, we've been headed this way for some time. This is just one exclamation point. I don't think it'll stop here, but just more proof how valuable this position has become.
Yeah, there's no question about it, Bo. And, you know, in pro football, either you got a quarterback or you're looking for one. There's no middle ground here. You can kind of spin it any way you want, but either you got one or you don't. And Kansas City, you know, they got the guy. You think about in 3 seasons, he's won an MVP and he's won a Super Bowl. Okay, he hasn't even hit the peak of his career yet as a player. So you want to keep that guy. He's a special talent. And the best Mahomes story I have is he comes to Manning camp a few years ago, right after LSU beats Tech in the bowl game, and he's sitting with, you know, probably 49, maybe 50 other quarterbacks. They got media from all over the country there. No one interviewed him. So I had just finished an interview. I saw him stand up, and I think he was going to leave because no one had come there to talk to him. I spun my cameraman, Chris Carter, around. I said, we're going to go talk to Patrick Mahomes. And he's like, man, ain't that the guy that LSU beat the holy stew out of? I said, yeah. I said, man, I've seen him throw. Let's go talk to him. So I got his attention. I asked him if I could do the interview. He said, absolutely. Sat down, and we did about 8 minutes. And he talked about his dad, his career at Tech, what he's looking to improve on, excuse me, for that season. And shook hands with me and walked out.
Man.
And I think about that a lot. Okay, we all there to interview these top quarterbacks, and no one went interview him. I was close to where he was. And so when I saw him stand up, because I did see him throw the Thursday, man, he was impressive. And so I think about that a lot. You know, everybody talks how the Bears missed out on him. Well, guarantee you, there was no one else that interviewed him. And I was just lucky at that point in time. Just lucky that he was right there and fixing to leave.
That's incredible. And, he goes to Texas Tech, runs the air raid with Kingsbury. They don't throw up the wins, that they wanted. And, I mean, talk about Andy Reid with the ability to identify and evaluate Mahomes and know what he wanted in that draft, Mike.
Andy was a guy that he's taken heat before. When he was in Philly, the fans there, along with the mayor, the governor, everybody wanted them to pick Ricky Williams, and he picked Donovan McNabb. So Andy's been through this before. Andy's a former quarterback, just like Sean. Now, if you look at it, you say there's no way that guy played quarterback, but he did. But he's got a sense of just not being able to relate to that quarterback very well, but to get the very best out of him. And I think about, his time with Alex Smith, who was a good player, but Andy really, I think, squeezed all the vitamin C he could out of the orange. And he's going to do that with Patrick. And now I think that the main thing about these type contracts is this. When you're going to give up that much money over a period of time, you as an owner or front office guy have to have great faith in that your scouting department and your head coach can draft well. You're not going to be able to openly go after a ton of free agents year to year. You may have a year where you have a little opening where you can go after a few. But most of the time, you're going to be pretty tight under that cap. You're going to have to rely on the draft. And so you got to give the Hunt family a little bit of that they feel as though that Andy can get them players via the draft. It won't necessarily be through veteran free agency because a lot of that money is going to be tied up to Patrick, not only now, but down the road. But you look at his talent and you see a guy that in 3 years has just been unbelievable throwing the football and a leadership standpoint and the ability to pull your team when you're behind, to pull them out, stops, and then you win games because he can make plays that very few guys can do. And so does it affect Dak? Yes. Is it going to affect Watson? Yes. But I think the big thing is when you commit that much money to one player, one, you better not miss. And secondly, you better be able to have great scouting of college players to be able to replenish your squad because you're not going to be able to go out year to year and sign a ton of free agents because you're not going to have the finances to do it. But the Mahomes signing at quarterback is going to be similar to what I think eventually will happen at running back. Nobody's going to catch Christian McCaffrey with his money. But the next big shoe to drop is going to be Derrick Henry. And Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook are waiting for that. John Robinson with the Titans has already said, I want to get a deal done by July 15th with Derrick Henry. So I think what's happening is Kamara and Cook are just waiting for what's going to happen with Derrick and then say, okay, now we got two contracts here. We not only have the contract of McCaffrey, we also have one of Derrick Henry. What's going to be interesting is what's going to be the next quarterback to sign? Is it going to be Dak or is it going to be Deshaun Watson? And then every other quarterback now will gauge it from Mahomes and that next quarterback.
Yeah. Incredible. And I guess the question is, how much better can he get? Mike Detillier on the Miller Lite guest line. You know?
Man, if he gets any better, he'll be lethal. I mean, man, you just think about some of these games. They're trailing by a couple of scores, and he makes play after play. He doesn't play great in the Super Bowl, but in the last 7 minutes, he was gold. And it's an old John Facenda line from NFL Films that great teams don't always play great. They play great when they have to.
Mm-hmm.
Well, some players don't always play great, but they play great when they have to.
Yeah.
In the last 7 minutes, he was unreal against the best defense in pro football, who had ate his lunch basically most of the game. And yet the confidence that I'm going to make those plays when it all counts, and there's a lot of jealousy in this world, Bo, and you're going to hear it from people. Oh, he don't deserve that money. He ain't proved nothing. All I'm telling you is, would you rather play with him or against him? Just answer that question. Bill Walsh, years ago, he won the Pete Rozelle Award here, and I asked him what was the key to scouting. He looked at me and he said, I always would ask my scouts one question. Are we better playing with him or are we better playing against him?
Ooh.
And he said, you know what? When I got that answer of, man, we want him on this team, that's who I wanted. So there's a lot of jealous people in this world. And there's a lot of hate in this world for different things. But people hate the fact that an entertainer gets this kind of money, an athlete gets this kind of money. But they're the first one to say, oh, well, man, this owner, he earned his money. What did he do? Inherited from his dad? So, come on. Be real. There are a lot of different ways to earn your money. But Mahomes, I think from a player standpoint, players respect him because of his talent. Man, it don't take 5 minutes to figure out that guy can play. It don't take you long. Just like I hear all this hoo-ha about, oh, man, if you don't play preseason, if you don't do this, man, the evaluation. And some of that's true. You do have a small percentage of players, and I can't tell you why, but I played with some like this. They ain't good in practice. But you put them in a game, it's like somebody flipped the switch. And you do have players that are really good in practice. You put them in a game, they freeze up.
Right.
But that's a small percentage. You mean to tell me it took you that long to figure out about a certain player? No, it don't take that long. You figure it out pretty quickly. But there is a small percentage, I think, of players that for whatever reasons are not the greatest practice players but are great in games. And they got some guys that are great in practice and they so during a football game. So one thing with Mahomes, it didn't take Andy Reid long to figure out that guy can play. And I never forget that when he was coming out of Tech, Sean Payton takes a run to Lubbock, Texas to work him out. And that was the first indication that, man, Sean really liked Patrick Mahomes. Well, we found out the story later that had Mahomes been on the board when the Saints picked, he would have been the selection because they really thought Marshawn Lattimore would go to Buffalo. And Buffalo was the one who made the trade with Kansas City. Kansas City moved up, and they picked Mahomes one pick ahead of the Saints. And the Saints did get a really good corner in Marshawn Lattimore. I mean, he's a really top-flight cover guy. But had Buffalo kept the pick and selected Lattimore, the Saints would have selected Patrick Mahomes.
Would the Saints be better off right now with Mahomes?
They'd be better off in the future. I know that. Man, you think about Sean with Mahomes. Sean's always kind of laughed with us about, I'm not a lifer. Man, with Mahomes, he might have been one.
Oh, that's good, man. Can you imagine Sean Payton drafting Mahomes, which would have probably meant that Mahomes would have been the starting quarterback for New Orleans this year. This would have probably been his first year. You agree with that, Mike?
I wouldn't have been surprised that the same thing that happened to Alex Smith would have happened to Drew. That Patrick would have sat for a year and then taken over year two. That's what I suspect would have happened. And Sean has talked about, because at that time they were playing the Zurich Classic, and who leaked it out was actually a couple of the golfers who got invited into the Saints sort of war room, and they sort of leaked it out that, hey, Saints are going to pick Patrick Mahomes. I got a text. We doing the draft show that night, and Buffalo's up on the board. And then all of a sudden we see Kansas City makes a trade. Well, we knew that Kansas City was looking for a quarterback. I wasn't sure if it was going to be Watson or Mahomes. And I think I probably said it would be Watson that Kansas City would pick. And it ended up being Mahomes. And then at that point, Lattimore was the best player on the board. Then but I got 2 texts from people saying, hey, listen, don't be surprised the Saints pick Patrick Mahomes. Now, I think this is what happened. The cat got out of the bag, so to speak. And Andy Reid figured, hey, listen, if I don't make this move, the Saints are going to get Patrick Mahomes. So he traded up 1 step ahead of the Saints to get.
Do you know how good that? I mean, this is a selfish statement. Do you know how good that would be for our business, Mike? I mean, you're right there in the thick of it, obviously, every day. But, I mean, we're heavy Saints and Sean and Drew and 2.5 hours away. Can you imagine having the opportunity to cover Patrick Mahomes as a 10 to 15-year starter? Wow.
I mean, again, Drew has been unbelievable here.
Sure.
And he has been the guy that's really transformed this franchise. But figure that you would have a guy like Mahomes take over for him. Now, again, it's rare that you see it. Sometimes, like in Green Bay, they were lucky they had Aaron Rodgers to take over for Brett. And the 49ers had traded for Steve Young to take over for Joe Montana. But isn't Miami still looking for the guy to replace Dan Marino?
Yes.
So you think about how long all of that took before things can happen. That again, though, I talked to Coach O about this a lot, and we think about the fact that when Joe Burrow became available, that a lot of people felt he would go to Cincinnati. It was easy for him. I mean, he was close. He knew the head coach. He knew a lot of the players on that team. And, LSU and Coach O were able to convince him, hey, listen, LSU is a spot where you can get your opportunity. And how sometimes things work out for the best. And, with LSU, Joe Burrow has transformed that program. I don't care how you cut it. Without Joe, who's to say that, you got some patience by some people on the board of supervisors to keep Ed?
Wow. Unbelievable. Out of bounds, ESPN 105.9 The Zone. Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV, New Orleans. Can you imagine? I mean, I'm just sitting here going, Sean Payton, Mahomes in New Orleans. But anyway, all right, so he's at the Chiefs, $500 million deal. And as the salary cap goes up, and it is going to go up, it is going to be more manageable to a certain extent for these teams to pay that position. We'll see what happens with Dak if they stay with the franchise tag. And Mike mentioned Deshaun Watson. Wonder how good Deshaun could be if he had a Andy Reid, Sean Payton type guy with him.
To me, Deshaun, come on, he's a better player than Dak Prescott. He's a better football player. And he's got now, when you lose DeAndre Hopkins, you can't be better at wide receiver. I mean, when you lose that type of talent, you're not as good there. They're putting a lot in his football basket again. But, a lot of people laughed when Dabo Swinney, after they won the national championship, made the comment, he's Michael Jordan playing football. Oh, that's just Dabo being Dabo. Look at what this guy has done throughout his career. With an offensive line, other than last year, that was absolutely horrible. A so-so running game. As the head coach, the guy they got there now, I think he's a solid head coach. I think he's an absolutely lousy GM. But I blame that on the owner for giving him, that type of responsibility. You look at how well run the Kansas City Chiefs are. I mean, that's a well-run franchise. And so, with the last pick in the draft, what do? They pick Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Cause they didn't really Damian Williams was a solid back. I thought he really played well in the Super Bowl. And you can make a pretty strong argument about MVP that, man, Damian made some plays in that game.
Yes.
But now you've got a guy like Clyde. He doesn't have to carry the football 20, 22 times a game. But he can carry it 13 or 14 and catch 3 or 4 passes. And now you've given Mahomes that part of it. And he's already got Travis Kelce. He's already got Tyreek Hill. That offensive line is really good, really good. Underrated, but it's very good. The defense has always been a little bit of the question mark with Andy and how much better he can get it. The big question in Kansas City now is not about Mahomes now, that's put on the side. I think we always knew that they would make a deal similar to this. What are they going to do with Chris Jones? Because Chris wants to get paid.
Right.
And Chris is a dominating pass rusher. Really is. Now, his run defense is above average. Ain't nothing to write home to mama about. But, man, can he rush the quarterback? And in this league, that's gold. How will they feel about Chris Jones as a player to pay him?
So franchise tag on Chris Jones will be $16 million, but he wants 20.
Correct.
Okay.
And he wants 20.
All right. Well, we'll see how that plays out. We'll leave it there with Mike Detillier. WWL Radio TV New Orleans on the Out of Bounds show and the Miller Lite guest line. Mike, have a super week, my man. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Bo. Appreciate it, bud.
At Mike Detillier on Twitter. The show is driven by the Continental Tires at 49 Tire in Richland, Mississippi, and their super cool valet service where they'll come pick up your truck or vehicle, car, service it, brakes, maintenance, AC, whatever you need, tires, and then they'll drop it back by your office or home. I mean, who wants to wait when they can come get it, take care of it? That's 49 Tire. Call them right now, 49tire.com. 49tire.com, valet service. They'll come get your vehicle, work on it, slap some tires on it, drop it back by your office or home. 49 Tire in Richland, Mississippi, and 49tire.com. Hour number 3 coming up on ESPN 105.9 The Zone.